It's time for Recipe of the Day. Today is technically Canadian Thanksgiving, and I need to talk some more about one of my favorite Thanksgiving foods, and that is gravy. Thanksgiving dinner would not be Thanksgiving dinner without gravy. Whether you're in Canada or the States, there has to be gravy. So the gravy recipe that I'm talking about today is actually for a cornstarch gravy, and I love this one because it can be eaten by a wide variety of people with different nutritional needs or restrictions. Depending on how you adapt it. And so what that ends up meaning is that if you have items on your dinner buffet or on your dinner menu that, even vegans can eat, or gluten-free, people who eat gluten-free can eat, all those people will be able to have this gravy. And so even if they can't have the turkey or they can't have the stuffing, whatever they can have can still be smothered in gravy. And that is important, right? So a cornstarch gravy is essentially just a gravy that is made with cornstarch instead of flour. And then the big difference between how you make them is when you are making a flour-based gravy, the flour gets mixed with a fat. Usually, it doesn't have to be, but that is a common way for doing it. And you make a roux, and then you add liquid to that roux. For a cornstarch gravy, you have your base liquid already going, and then you just make a little mixture on the side of a little bit of liquid with cornstarch, and you add that in. Both the cornstarch and the flour gravies are going to thicken once they're heated up. So that part is the same. The difference is really just what you're mixing that thickening agent with. Is it going with a fat or is it going with a liquid? And since most cornstarch is gluten-free, I would just double check that yours is. Then that means that anybody who is gluten-free who couldn't have a flour gravy can have this gravy. One difference between cornstarch gravy and flour gravy is that they look a little bit different. The cornstarch gravy has a little bit more of a translucence to it, or a sheen, whereas the flour gravy is more opaque. That is the main difference in look. The flavor is pretty similar. I'm not sure that I can even really tell the difference. I think I do prefer the flour, but I think it just tastes like the gravy my mom and my baba made, so that's why I don't think it's actually better. They're very similar. Okay, how do you make cornstarch gravy? You're going to get a medium saucepan and measure in 2 cups of broth or stock. So here I'm making about 2 cups of gravy, which is definitely enough for 4 people. And so we're starting with the 2 cups of broth or stock. Now, if you have drippings from having roasted some meat, you can use 2 cups of those drippings instead. Or if you don't have a full 2 cups, you can use however much you have and then make it up with broth or stock. Just taste your drippings and make sure they're not super salty. That's the only thing that I would advise you of. But you can use vegetable stock here. So that means that this can become vegetarian very easily. You just use store-bought vegetable stock or homemade vegetable stock for this stock or broth part, and then you are good. So 2 cups of broth or stock or drippings into a medium saucepan. And then if this is being made for nobody who has any dairy restrictions, I will also add in 2 tablespoons of butter here. You can alternatively add 2 tablespoons of the fat from your drippings from roasting your roast. So that is the option. But if you don't add those things, it is still good. It is good without the butter or without that added fat. Really tasty. The butter just adds a little bit of richness, right? So now you have 2 cups of stock in a medium saucepan, and you might also have 2 tablespoons of butter or fat in there, but you might not. Put that over high heat and bring it up to a boil, stirring fairly often, and then remove it from the heat completely. And then you're going to get out a small bowl and mix together 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and then a 1/4 cup of other liquid. Now, this can be milk if you're doing dairy. It can be a dry white wine, or it can be more broth or stock. So if you were making this vegetarian and dairy free and you don't want to use the wine, then you could use more of the vegetable stock here. So it's 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with a 1/4 cup of liquid. You mix that up until it's nice and smooth, and then you pour it all at once into your hot liquid and just start stirring right away, and it possibly will start thickening already. Even if it does, though, you do want to bring it back up to a simmer, so put it over medium-high heat and bring it up to a simmer, stirring fairly often. You don't want it sticking or burning on the bottom. And once it's come up to a simmer, it's going to thicken to its full thickness, and then you can add in some seasonings. So if this is for like turkey or chicken, then you might want to do poultry seasoning, about half a teaspoon. If it's not, if it's for like pork or roast beef, you could add whatever herbs, dried herbs you think work here for what you're making. Some thyme thyme, some sage, some rosemary. And then also I add in a little bit of garlic powder, about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and a little bit of black pepper, about 1/8 of a teaspoon also. Give that a stir and then taste it and add salt to taste right at the end before serving. I say this all the time that when we leave gravy on the back of our stove, just kind of simmering there, staying warm until the rest of our dinner is ready, that entire time liquid is evaporating out of the gravy and concentrating the salt. And that is how you end up with gravy that is too salty. So taste it now and see if you like it. Don't add salt though until you're just about ready to serve. And then you add that salt in, and then everybody at your dinner can pour it all over their meal. So good. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there, or find it in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. And hey, just a quick note. I'm on a recording hiatus right now, so for the next little while, I'm replaying episodes from the archives, including this one. If you heard me mention a holiday, a season, or something going on in my life that seemed a bit off, that's why. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're enjoying these older episodes. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.